How's it going, everybody? Brother Kimo here from Reload Hawaii. Thanks for watching another video. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving because now it's really time to get to work. We all have to do our best to save net neutrality. Look, I totally get it. Looking at this word is totally boring, and you might have seen it pop up in the news more and more, and that's because the chairman of the FCC just recently announced that he's going to try to repeal net neutrality on December 14th. Now, why is this important? Why is it relevant to you? I can just say this, that if you have internet in your house and if you rely on it, it's going to be relevant. And if you think your cable bill is high now, if they're successful in repealing this, wait till you see the increases in your cable bill. In a nutshell, net neutrality is there to make sure that our internet service providers, for most of us it's going to be our cable providers, give us 100% the same access to whatever it is we're looking on the internet the same. It evens it out. It doesn't matter if we're watching Netflix or YouTube or if we're trying to get through a BitTorrent. Their job is to provide us 100% even access to whatever it is we're trying to access on the internet. Because after all, they're not making the internet, they're just the middleman giving us access to the internet. Now, just as a quick example to show you guys what happens when this isn't in place, which was put in place 2015, roughly right around 2014, Netflix and Comcast got into it. Basically, Comcast was saying, hey, Netflix, you're using so much of our broadband, 30% of it, I think is what the number was. You need to pay us more money, otherwise we're going to slow your access to our network. And that is exactly what they did because Netflix refused to pay. They were like, we're not going to pay you more. You're not making the internet. You're just a provider. We're not going to pay you. And guess what happened? Yep. Comcast slowed down the bandwidth. They throttled it down so that people that were trying to access Netflix on Comcast, they couldn't do it. It wasn't a viable option. However, if you looked at what was going on, let's say, Cox or Verizon or AT&T, those users were not affected. So that is an example of what can happen when this is not in place. Comcast strong-armed Netflix into paying them money, and as soon as they did, guess what happened? That's right, view time went up because the throttle was lifted. Okay, now we have a clear example of how a content provider, Netflix, paid a internet service provider. Now granted, Netflix didn't want to do it, but can you imagine what would happen if we had a really big, aggressive content provider that paid off all of the internet service providers, and this wasn't in place, right? So now we have a content provider paying big bucks to make sure that they get the bandwidth. It's no longer even like it should be under net neutrality. So now we have an example of how the playing field is not even for the smaller companies that we might want to have access to. If it's not available on that network because they're not getting paid, we won't have access to it. Now that already is really going to suck, right? You can see how the playing field is no longer even when this goes away. So for somebody that's super aggressive, an outside force that's paying the internet service providers, they're now giving preference to those people. Now if you look at it from the other side, without net neutrality being in place, cable providers or internet service providers are now going to have the option of saying, so you want YouTube, you want Netflix, you want Hulu, you want all of this stuff? Well, guess what? Now you have to pay a subscription fee if you want to access this through our internet service. That's right, not only are you going to have to pay your cable, your internet, your home phone, maybe security, but they are also going to have the ability to charge you bundles to access the things that you want to access through the internet. What? So then the question comes up, if this is so horrible, how is it still going forward? Like I said before, this has been in the news for quite some time. The FCC website has been slammed with over 20 million comments, 400,000 calls. What is going on? What is the argument that could possibly make this okay? One of the main selling points of the opposition is it's going to make money, right? With all the money that we're going to be paying and the investors that are going to be coming in, it's going to help the infrastructure grow, the internet service providers, so that we can increase our internet experience. That's one of the big things. The other thing that they're pitching is that if you're not happy with your current provider, you can always switch. Now, realistically, we know that there are a few internet providers out there, but realistically, most of us only have maybe one or two to choose from. For example, in Las Vegas where I live, there's a whole bunch of internet service providers, but realistically, I only have one option because that's the best service for my area. It's almost as if the cable providers or internet service providers decide, okay, you guys get this half, you guys get this half. So even though there are internet service providers around me, I only have one to choose from. So in the example that I used earlier, if the content providers are not with Cox and maybe they're with CenturyLink, I'm not going to have access to those programs because they're on a different carrier. That is not what this is about. This way, everybody has the same access to everything. So in closing, guys, we need to do whatever we can to save net neutrality. It should not be put in the hands of our internet service providers to give preference to whoever is paying them the most money. That's not how this is supposed to work. In saving net neutrality, we assure that we have 100% even access to whatever we want to watch at the speeds that we pay for. If we lose this, we're going to see an increase in our cable bills and a decrease in our quality of internet experience. Don't believe the opposition, because I sure don't. Remember, we're working against a time constraint, December 14th. Be sure to click one of those links on the bottom so that you can make sure you get your voice heard and we can save net neutrality. Guys, that's the ending of this video. I hope you found it useful. Don't forget to share it as much as possible. Give me the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. And as always, I'll catch you guys later.